Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about x-intercepts and y-intercepts. Okay, so review, we know what the y-intercept is. The y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. So if I take this idea and I apply it to the x-intercept, then the x-intercept is going to be where the graph crosses the x-axis. So graphically, I could probably just look and see, okay, where's my x-axis? Okay, where's it cross? Where's my y-axis? Where's it cross? I can do it that way. But you also have to be able to do it algebraically. So today we're going to figure out the x-intercept and y-intercept of an equation when giving the equation, and we're going to do it algebraically. Okay, so if we go down to example 1, I have a couple of steps for you to do this. It is simple. To find the y-intercept, change your x to 0 and solve for y. Vice versa. To find your x-intercept, change your y to 0 and solve for x. Okay, so what do I mean by this? So the first time I'm going to solve for the x-intercept. So that means I want to isolate x, which means I need to get rid of my y. And that's where the steps come into play. So I'm going to replace this y with a 0 and then solve for x. So the first time I go through, I'm going to have 7x minus 3 times 0 equals 21. Well, that basically eliminates this right here, and I'm just having 7x equals 21. Divide both sides by 7, x equals 3. So my x-intercept is 3, 0. Okay? So now if I were to go do the y-intercept, same thing, but this time I want to eliminate my x because I want to solve for y. So to do that, I'm going to put a 0 in for x, and then I'm just going to have my y. So 7 times 0 minus 3y equals 21. Well, that 7 minus 0 eliminates it completely, so I'm left with a negative 3y is equal to 21. So divide both sides by negative 3 to get my y by itself, and I'm going to find that y equals a negative 7. So my y-intercept is going to be 0, negative 7. Okay, so I'm going to repeat the process again over here. I want to solve for my x-intercept first. Replace y with 0, solve for x. So 8x minus 2 times 0 equals 32. So that's just going to give me 8x equal to 32, because 2 times 0 is 0, so basically that disappears. So divide by 8, and I'm going to find that x equals 4. So my x-intercept is going to be 4, 0. This time I want my y, so I have to eliminate the x. So this time I plug in 0 for x. So 8 times 0 minus 2y equals 32. This goes away and I'm left with negative 2y equal to 32. Divide by negative 2 to get y by itself. So y is now going to be negative 16. So my y-intercept is 0, negative 16. And again, remember guys, the x-intercept and the y-intercept means these are the points at which the graph crosses the x-axis and the y-axis. All right, let's do one more. Over here we have negative 4x plus 3y equals 24. So I want to get my x-intercept, which means I need to plug in a 0 for y first. So negative 4x plus 3 times 0 is going to equal 24. The 3 and the 0 are going to disappear because the 0 times anything is 0. So I'm left with negative 4x equals 24. Divide both sides by negative 4 to get x by itself. and I'm going to find that my x-intercept is going to be negative 6, 0. Now I have to do my y-intercept. Again, I want to get rid of x because I'm solving for y, so I would plug in a 0 for x. So that's going to be negative 4 times 0 plus 3y equals 24. Sorry guys, I'm running out of room. So the negative 4 and the 0 are going to disappear. So I'm left with 3y equals 24. Divide both sides by 3. And y is going to equal 8. So my y-intercept is 0, 8. Okay, if you did not understand that at any point, pause, go back, and review how to do it. All right, so the next 3, I want you to try by yourself. Okay, I want you to try A, B, and C by yourself. So pause, work it out, and then come back and check to make sure that you have the same answers as I do. Alright, so now that you're back and you've tried them, hopefully you're checking your answer right now and finding that you did it correctly. So for A, I got 10, 0 for my x-intercept, 0, 10 for my y-intercept. Okay, again, plug in 0 for y, solve for x, plug in 0 for x, solve for y. You actually get 10 for both of them. On B, I got 2, 0 for my x-intercept, and I have 0, negative 2 for my y-intercept. Now be careful when you go to plug in 0 for x, you're left with a negative y. I have to get rid of that negative, so that's how I get a negative 2, because I divided by a negative 1. And then C, be careful, y was first before x. So to get the x-intercept, I got negative 8, 0, and the y-intercept, I got 0, 8. Alright, so that is how we do it algebraically. Graphically is more fitting to the definitions that we did at the very top. So in the next couple of examples, we are to use a graph to find the intercept. And remember, the x-intercept is where the graph crosses the x-axis, the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So we first need to know which axis is which. So the one that's horizontal, as you can see, is our x-axis, and the one that is vertical, as you can see, is our y-axis. So when I go to find the x-intercept, I'm going to look along this line right here. And as soon as I get to a point, that's going to be my x-intercept. And if you notice, it's going to be negative 2 and then 0 because I didn't go up or down any. So negative 2, 0. So now for my y-intercept, I'm going to go vertically. And I go until I get a point. And my point's right here. So I would go, I don't go left or right any. So my y-intercept is 0, and I went up 2. Okay, looking at B, again, my x-intercept is this one, and my x-intercept, my x-axis is this one, and my y-axis is this one. Okay, so my x-intercept, I go along this guy, go, 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 oh, found a point. I went right 1 and up or down none. Whereas my y-intercept, I go left or right, none, but up, positive 3. Okay? All right, turn the page. I want you to find the x and y intercept for this equation, and then we're going to graph it. Okay, so I need to first, it says find the x and y intercepts for the following equations and then graph it. So to do that, I need to do it algebraically. I don't have a graph to look at, so to do it algebraically, remember, plug in 0 for y to solve for x, plug in 0 for x to solve for y. So I'm going to have 3x plus 2 times 0 equals 6. So that's going to be 3x equals 6 because the 2 times 0 disappears or makes 0. Divide by 3. So my x-intercept is going to be 2, 0. For my y-intercept, I plug in 0 for x. So I'm going to have 3 times 0 plus 2y equals 6. So that's going to be 0. So I'm just left with 2y equals 6. Divide both sides by 2. And I find that y is 3 and my x was 0. So now that I have my x and y intercept, I can now graph them on my graph and connect the two dots to get an idea of what my graph would look like. So for my x-intercept, I go left or right, and it's positive, so I go right 2 and up none. My y-intercept, I go up or down, and since it's positive, I go up 3. So now I just connect the dots. And I would have a rough estimate of what my graph should look like. Okay? So when you're in standard form, instead of having to solve like we did on Thursday during the scavenger hunt, I can now just do x and y intercepts, graph those 2 points, and then get a rough idea of what my graph looks like. Saves me the headache of having to solve for y and doing all those other steps. Okay, so let's do another one. If I look at B, I need to solve for my x-intercept first. So I'm going to have 2x minus 7 times 0 equal to 14. If I'm solving for x, I plug in 0 for y. Negative 7 and 0 are going to be 0, so they like disappear. 2x is going to equal 14. When I divide both sides by 2, I'm going to be left with 7. Now I got to do my y-intercept. So this time I'm going to plug in 0 for x and have just negative 7y equals 14. So when I have negative 7y equals 14, I divide both sides by negative 7, and I get that my y-intercept is negative 2. So now I can go and graph these 2 points and get a rough idea of what my graph should look like. So for my x-intercept, it's on this guy is right here is my x-axis. And the one going vertical is my y-axis. Okay, so I'm going to go right 7 because it's positive 7 for x. And I'm going to go down 2 on my y-axis because my y-intercept is negative 2. So now I can connect those 2 dots and get a rough idea of what my graph is going to look like. Okay? Again, if you're confused or I lost you, pause or rewind, go back to where I lost you, and let it go over again and see if you get it the second time. All right, if you're good to go, I want you to go ahead and graph or do C. So solve for the x and y intercept. Solve for the x and y intercept. Graph those 2 points. Connect them and see if you can do it. Okay, so you need to press pause. Do these. Then come back, hit play, and see if your answers match mine. All right, so now that you're back, you're checking your answers with what I have. Okay, hopefully for C, you got the x-intercept to be negative 4, 0, and the y-intercept to be 0, 4. And for D, you got the x-intercept to be negative 3, 0, and the y-intercept to be 0, 6. And then this is what your graph should look like. These are slightly different than the ones that I did with you because these are in what format? Y equals mx plus b. And we know b to be what? Our y-intercept. So I didn't have to solve technically by plugging in 0, yada, 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 because I know in this format, my y-intercept is my b, and that's the plus or minus after the x. So I didn't have to solve this one. Now I did have to solve for my x-intercept, same way that I solved above, where I'm plugging in 0 for y, and then I have to solve for x. So when I do that, I have to get x by itself, which means I have to subtract 4 from both sides, and that's how I got a negative 4 to equal x. Likewise over here on D, okay?